This is the Pentax 17, a half frame film camera, 35 millimeters that you can buy today, brand new, warranty, all of that kind of stuff. But is it more of like a gimmick kind of thing, or is it something worth actually picking up? Let's talk about it. So obviously a big thanks to Pentax for letting me borrow this for a little bit. I don't get to keep it, they're not paying me, and they're not doing anything but allowing me to use the camera for a bit. And as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm actually sending it right back to them. Now, right off the bat, this thing is definitely not as heavy or chunky or anything as something like the Contax T2. It does have that kind of titanium feel to the top and the bottom plates, but also it's really, really kind of lightweight and feels a little bit more plasticky throughout the middle section here. So probably both like a cost and weight savings measure to make it so, yeah, it wasn't like $1,000 film camera or anything like that. Now, the other unique thing about this right off the bat, other than the fact that it's a brand new camera that you can pick up and buy a brand new film camera, is the fact that it is a half frame camera. So normally, roll of 35 millimeter film, you're getting these 2:3 aspect ratio, 36 by 24 millimeter size frames. It's a typical like photograph. Like you think that's what I'm filming this in a full, actually a 3:2 aspect ratio where I can mess with it afterwards. But normally that's what your camera will output. And then I'm not going to grab the actual negative here, but with this, instead of using that full 3:2 aspect ratio, the 36 by 24, you're using the vertical arrangement of that, and then making that into a much smaller frame. So think of it as kind of like an APS-C size. So the 17 here is actually referring to the width that you're getting. So instead of 36 millimeters, you're getting 17 millimeters, which moves that into a vertical aspect ratio. But then also, it's what gives you the ability to, instead of getting like 36 photos, you can get 76 out of here. So you're doubling, you're essentially, well, you're halving the size of the negative that you're actually using, but you're doubling the amount of film photos per roll that you're gonna get out of this because you're having the resolution essentially. And there are some huge advantages to this. First of all, film these days, especially in the year 2025, are just, it's absurd how expensive things have gotten. Like film has legitimately 4 to 5x in price for some different rolls and things in the last 5-10 years. So the fact that you can go through an entire roll on here and get double the amount of photos, it's essentially a nice way to kind of save some money. And if the quality that you're looking for isn't something that is super, super high, you're not looking for the ultimate resolution, you're more using this as like a normal point and shoot camera, as a memory machine, as something that is going to give you a little bit more of a lo-fi kind of look, this definitely gives you that and gives it to you in spades. Now, oddly enough, the most popular video I've ever made on my channel is a video about this Kodak Ektar H35 half frame camera. Now, this thing is as basic as you could possibly get. It is a tenth of a price of the Pentax 17 here, but there's literally nothing. Like, you have your button to take the photo and a film winder here. So like, this is in half frame, essentially like reusable, disposable camera. There's no focusing, there's no anything here. There's no light meter, there's nothing. So fun camera. And if you are not like a film photography enthusiast and you just are looking at this thing going like, oh, this might be fun, and you're not really someone that wants to spend a bunch of money, you can check out this video. I'll put it up here and you can get some fun stuff out of this for sure. So like, I've recommended this to friends before that just want like that kind of film look, that film experience and stuff, and aren't really looking for more of an enthusiast camera. That's where I think this really obviously comes into play. So this is not something that I would just like recommend to a friend that doesn't really get photography or is really into photography. This is like a photographer's half frame camera. There are a lot of great little like auto features. There is an auto feature just straight up, but like this thing takes a battery, the battery goes in the front right here, and you actually, you turn the camera on and off. You can see things warming up. You have this nice little lever here that doesn't move very far because you're only advancing it half a frame. And then you have your different modes here. So you have an auto mode, and then if you move it in one direction, you are going to get everything without the flash going. And then if you move it in the other direction, you're going to get it with the flash. So pretty straightforward there. But you do get like an actual light meter in here. The aperture will change. So it's a little bit different than like a just straight up like disposable camera style thing. There are a lot more inner workings going on in this camera. For one, you actually like set your ISO here. You do have an exposure compensation little wheel here. And so for people also that are maybe new to film photography, my safe bet is usually that for point and shoots and things, I just expose to +1. So I give the camera one more stop of light than it thinks it needs. That way, if it is going to be underexposed slightly, then that will push it forward a stop and hopefully make it less underexposed. And for those who don't shoot a lot of film, underexposure is kind of like the death of film photography, where overexposure is the death of a lot of digital photos. So it's kind of opposite here. You can think of it as, color negatives. So lots to go into there, but that's my general recommendation, is to put most point and shoots at +1, and just gives you a little bit more flexibility in your negatives. Now, when you look through the viewfinder, you are looking through a vertical image, which is obviously what you're going to get here. And what's nice is that you see right in here the frame lines, and then you see directly this little graph here that shows you need to actually focus this lens a little bit to know what you're going to be focusing on. So you get the mountains, you get like a family, like 2 people and a kid. You get kind of like a more headshot with 2 people. You get a single person headshot. You get a fork and a knife. So if you're a food blogger, and then you get a flower. So that's like your macro. And that's kind of your distance scales here to know how far away you actually need to be on these things. Now with 3.5 as the max aperture, and I never set it on bokeh mode, so I wasn't ever trying to get a lot of subject separation. For the vast majority of these photos that I took, they all turned out to be in focus, outside of the ones that I obviously just missed remembering to set the focus on. But the nice thing is you're seeing that through the viewfinder. It's very, very obvious. It's like illuminated through the viewfinder where your focus is going to be. So there are definitely times where I took a photo and realized immediately that I had focused it incorrectly and then was able to switch it. So I think I did that for probably 2 or 3 photos out of the 76 that I took. So not really a bad deal at all. And I will say there's only one photo in this entire set that was exposed a little bit too hot. I'm not sure what I did or what the deal is, but I took the same photo twice, so maybe I was just trying to test it, and I can't remember why it was overexposed, but it is, and that's the only one. It wasn't overexposed to the point where I couldn't recover the information or anything, but I tried to make this as kind of normalized as possible. So instead of going through every single photo and making adjustments, I just went through and just picked a random photo in this and then edited that photo and then just synced it across all of them. And they all look really good. So this camera does a really good job with its meter and with its flash and all that kind of stuff. Now, one of the things that didn't make a lot of sense to me about the flash is the fact that the flash is horizontal, but the frames are vertical. So it just seemed to me something that you would think that the flash would also be vertical. So don't really get why it's like that, but it is what it is, and it's just fine. So honestly, this thing is really, really fun to use and a joy to play with and everything like that. But are the images really that much better? Are they worthwhile for something like this? Let's check it out, and I will give you my final thoughts on this thing. So after seeing like a full roll on this thing, I was pretty impressed. The images that I got out of this were really sharp. They're a lot sharper than that Kodak H35 camera. Obviously, they're not gonna be as sharp as like a full 35 millimeter, like 36 by 24 full frame image, mainly because you're just punching in, and I was using Kodak Gold 200, which is, I think, the perfect kind of film for something like this. It gives you a lot of flexibility, and I knew that I was gonna be outside a lot. And while, of course, it's grainy, like I think that's the reason you're using a camera like this. You're going for more of like a memory machine, a thing that you're just trying to make interesting stuff that has a little bit more of a feel to it, right? And I think they are pretty sharp. I think this thing did a really, really good job of exposing things well. Overall, I'm not gonna lie, I was more impressed with this camera and more impressed with the images that I got of it than I was anticipating. I thought it was going to be a little bit more lo-fi, a little bit less of a clean image, to be honest. And I think the lens is actually pretty sharp and feels really good, looks really good. And so for the price point, I would definitely not say that it's cheap by any means, but the fact that you're getting a working camera that has like a warranty, I'm sure they're gonna be able to fix things if it comes up. I think a lot of wedding photographers are gonna like this because it gives you the ability to not even have to change rolls. You can go through an entire wedding, shoot 72 images, and get a lot of cool stuff out of this without needing to like be as involved in the process. You can just set this thing on auto and rock and roll. You're gonna get kind of that feeling of like a disposable camera, but a little bit better quality actually. And then the ability to get double the amount of photos per roll. And especially for like a travel camera, I think this thing worked perfectly for that trip that we took. There's just enough stuff to keep you kind of involved in the process, like the fact that you do have to manually focus it, the fact that you can move some of the things, you can expose things differently if you want to, but the camera does such a good job in and of itself that you don't need to do a lot of that stuff if you don't want to. If you want to, you could go through the entire thing and only really change the focusing, which is what I did. So is this camera for everyone? No, but is it a really cool addition to just like the film photography lineup and the film community in general? Absolutely. So if you're thinking about picking one of these up, I will definitely put a link in the description down below. Thanks again to Pentax for sending this over. I honestly really wish, especially now that like summer's approaching, that I would have some more time with it. Maybe that's something that I will be picking up in the future. And then if you've watched all the way through and you aren't subscribed, please consider doing so. I'm definitely been pushing to try to get my numbers up. It's something that is annoying, but people do actually care when it comes to things like brand deals and other opportunities and things like that. So if you have watched some of my videos before and you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. And then if you want to see more of my videos on film cameras and things like that, you can check that out up here. Check out that other half frame camera from Kodak up here, and I will see you in one of those videos.